Okay, hey guys, welcome back. It's Root here, or whatever you want to call me, and I am making this video because in the Discord from the last video I made, the Discord music bot video, I got a lot of positive reviews, relatively speaking. um, but one thing I did notice is that everyone coming by had little to no JavaScript experience, let alone Node. So I thought there was a problem, and this video is going to be here to fix it. Now, in this video, this is just going to be episode 1. I'm going to come up with these. This is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be going over variables, arrays, if statements, for statements, functions, switch statements, and debugging. So now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over variables. Now, what we can do here is we can just simply create a variable by either using one of two different things, var or const, C-O-N-S-T. The difference between var is that it creates a variable, and that allows us to constantly change the value. So we just type in a name. Let's just name it ASDF, and we'll set that, and we'll just do that. Now, as you can see, if we just log ASDF, it'll just return undefined because we haven't initialized it yet. Right now, it's just a reference to something, but we haven't allocated any memory for it yet. It doesn't matter if you don't know what that means. It just means that it's equal to undefined right now. We can start off though. We can do, now that we have it this thing already defined though, the ASDF part defined, we can do ASDF. And we can set it equal to something, like say, hello. And now, that string is stored into that variable, so we can access it. If we say, for instance, we want to do console log ASDF. And it prints hello. Now, the constant is a special kind of variable where you have to give it a value first, or if you don't, you have to initialize it with something when you define it. So we'll do hello. Now we can just do console.log ASDF2, like the other thing, and we get hello. But we can't, unlike ASDF, where we can now change it to ASDF. Oops. We cannot redefine the variable. It'll give us an assignment to constant variable. It means the constant means that that variable cannot be changed under any circumstances. So yeah, that's arrays. No, I mean that's variables. That's pretty basic. One last thing to note is that a variable can be initialized to either a boolean, a string, an int, a float, or an array, or an object. And I'll go over all these things in time. But right now, we're just going to go over the basic stuff. Now, we're going to go over arrays. Arrays are a collection of stuff, essentially. We can define an array by making it into a variable using constant or var. We'll use var in this case. I'll just name it array, and let's set it equal. Now, this is to define an array. This is the syntax for an array. You just do open bracket, an element of some sort, close bracket. Now we have an array, and we have only one item. Now this array has properties. For instance, say we want to get the length of the array, we can do array.length, and it'll return 1, because we have only one thing in there. Or we can do array.push to add an element. Now if we just do array, and push out, we see we now have 2 elements as an object, 0 the first index is the 234, and we did the dot push to it to add it to the end, and it affixes the data to M. One thing to notice is that to get something from an array, we use the just type in the name of the variable that the array is stored in, then just straight open bracket, and we can do either if it's like a JSON array, we can grab it by the name. Whoops. And if that's another array, it'll return what's in that, because we can do things called multivariable arrays. Or if it's an object array, it'll return the object. But right now, we're just going to use the regular old index, where it starts off, an array starts off at 0, and there you go, and then it goes to array.length -1, and you have to make sure you have that -1, because otherwise it'll throw an undefined, because this is returning array.length. Array.length returns 2, and if we go check in here at array 0, 1, there is no 2, so it'll return an undefined. Now, when you're initializing the array, if you want to initialize multiple things, you do the open bracket, the first element, comma, another element, comma, another element, and as many as you want. And then when you're done, you don't do another comma, and you just do close bracket. And now we can just access from any one of these things. And if you want to go in depth and look at all the different functions that the array has, we can go to the Mozilla Developer Network. And this is a fantastic source. And before you do, like, if you can't find help, go for a certain thing you want to do, go here or go on Stack Exchange, and you will almost definitely find an answer. So we come over here, Web Technologies, JavaScript, and we can go through all of these things, guides, documentations for everything. Say we want an array, access, add to the end, remove from the end, everything you could ever possibly need about stuff is. So yeah, we're almost done with arrays. Last thing we need to know for arrays is that arrays can be something called multi-dimensional, where like the elements in the arrays are arrays themselves. Like this. And now we access the element in the array. Same way, we do array 0, and it returns the array that was at the index 0. So if we just return array, we see here we have an array. This is the regular array, and then all the elements in this array are more arrays, and we can keep doing this. We can make as many nested arrays as we want. So for instance, instead of having this 234 comma, we can make this another array with its own values, and we can access that by doing the regular access notation, and then so this will return an array. So then we can do access that value again, the 0th, and get the first value of the first array in the array. And we can do this for as many arrays that are in this multi-dimensional array. And this can be really good for doing stuff with vectors, or if you want to keep track of stuff that's like stored as a multivariable array. Like pictures, for instance. Okay. That's all we need for that. Now we're going to be going on to if statements. Now, if statements are one of the most important things in JavaScript. Without if statements, we literally would not be able to do any kind of conditional stuff. So say we have a variable r, and it's equal to true. And we're going to use an if statement to check to see if this variable equals a certain value. And if it is, we want to execute a certain piece of code. And if it isn't, then we want it to execute a different piece of code. So we're going to use this by typing if, and then we're going to do an open and close parentheses, and then curly braces to surround everything. And we're gonna do, and so what we want to do is we want to see if r is equal to true. So we can do, there's two ways we can do this. We can do r equals true, or we can just do just r, because if it's a boolean, it'll automatically insert its value into it. So since r is equal to true, it'll just automatically become true. So so this will, and if we do an exclamation point, this means not. So this will return false, and it'll execute something called an else statement. And this is the thing. We just put this at the end of the if statement. And this is the code that gets executed when this if statement fails. So essentially what's going on here, if r, not r in this case, so since r is equal to true, so if the opposite of true, which is false, so this will give out to false, then execute this. But it's false, so we're going to execute what's in this else statement. Another thing we can do with if statements is we can do what's the name? Else if statements. Now say we have this. We can do multiple checks. Else if, and do another check to say r. And then if we want, we can add an else. Note the else's are optional, but this is basically saying if this condition is true, run this. If it's not, check if this condition is true. If not, run this. But if we don't have the else, then we'll just stop here. And a thing to note with else if statements is they are in a chain. So say, for instance, there's a lot of else ifs. Okay. Say there's multiple else ifs. If this evaluates to false, it'll move on to here. If this evaluates to true, then it'll stop and it won't continue on to the next one in the chain. Same thing if it finishes, it returns true here, it won't continue to operate there. So that's everything you need to know for if statements. And my mouse is frozen. Now we're gonna do for loops. For loops are an extremely important metric to iterate through data of variable amounts. So, say for instance, we have an array. And we're going to go through each element in the array and print it out. We just type in for, then open parentheses and close parentheses inside the curly braces. And there's three parts to this array. To this for statement. First we have to initialize a variable. So we're going to do var I, and we have to set it equal to something. So we want the starting value of I to be equal to 0. We have to do a check, a conditional. So we want to say if I is less than array dot length. Oops. So if this is true, then continue on. And then this last piece is what to do once the code executes. What to increase the variable I by. So we're just going to do I++, which means incremented by 1. And now we can easily just do console.log array at index I. And that will there we go. And it'll go through each element in the array and print it out. So start off that I equals 0. If I, so right now it's 0, is less than array.length, execute this value. So console.log array at index 0. So it prints that out. Then increase I by 1. So now I is equal to 1. So I is still less than the array.length. But now it's accessing it's accessing the first index in an array, which is the second item, etc., etc. And so it'll continue doing on. And there's so many powerful things you can do with it. You can do nested for loops, and you can achieve so many really incredible things with it that can really simplify your life. Okay, now for functions. Functions allow us to input and return data, and allow us to control the flow of operations. So, there are two ways to define functions. I'm just going to show you and work with the most familiar way. And maybe if you've done programming before, or done JavaScript before, you'll have seen it. And it's just type function, the function name, and then parentheses, and then inside, after that, open and close curly braces. And in these parentheses, we can say we want parameters, and this is something that we'd have to pass it, so we can have access to it. So, say we have two variables, a and r. We want to console.log the value of a plus r. So now, if we do ASDF 1, 3, it'll return 4, because we're calling the function and passing it these values to be placed into those parameters. So these become variables that we can use down in here. But it can get even better. With functions, we can return things, immediately stopping the execution of the code. So we can return a plus r. So now if we do ASDF 1 and 3, it'll return 4. So now we can just console.log it, 1, 3, or, wait, ASDF, yeah, 1, 3. Or, we can save the output, save it to a variable, so we can access it later. So now we have access to R, and we can do whatever we want with it. So yeah, it's great. And the last piece is, I'm going to skip switch because those are a little complicated for this video, I just realized. So we're going to get straight to debugging. Debugging is one of the most important things about programming. Without debugging, without knowing how to debug properly, you won't really be an efficient developer. Because I had a lot of people come into my Discord and ask me to solve some really basic syntax issues. For one, say we have we're using the math operation, maps.absolute of -4. Now there's an error with this, and actually because there's an error, it's not letting me execute the code. So say we switch the error around. Yeah, see, it says unexpected token. This. So, and then it gives us a line number. And I'll show you how to debug in Node.js because it's a little different, but it's the same property. So here we have it. Here's a line number. It's line 1 of this. Let me see, unexpected token. This. So we look through here and we see, everything looks good, but when it means unexpected token, it means that it has an extra this. It's the same thing if we have like it's 2 semicolons, actually not really. But yeah, so it's returning this error because for some reason it's saying that this shouldn't be here. And so we look through it and we say, oh, hey, look, here's the reason why. It's because it's unmatched, meaning it's disrupting the flow of the code, and so it's throwing an error. So we just do this. Or say we have an if statement, and we have an else statement, and then another else statement. It's going to throw an error because this else statement has to go right after an if statement. And so, since this else is coming right after an else, it doesn't make any sense. so that's what we're gonna have to. So we would easily just remove the else statement to fix the issue. What's another common error I saw? Oh, execution. It wasn't doing exactly what it wasn't supposed to do. Well, what you have to do is you just have to go through, log stuff, try and figure out where it's going wrong. You just, it's just intuition. Go through the code, follow it approximately how the computer would do it, and try and find points where you can log data. If something's not executing properly, like go ahead and log hello world all the way back and trace to where it's the start of not executing, and you'll find commonly like oh, maybe you just mistyped something, or oh, I accidentally changed a plus to an equals or something like that. So yeah, that's all for this video. This video is 21 minutes long so far, so it's tremendously shorter than my Node video. Next, I'll be doing Node basics, and it'll be much more complicated stuff. So I suggest you read up some more on JavaScript, or maybe say in the comments whether the people who watch this whether you want more JavaScript tutorials. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next video.